Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I will be showing you how I recreated this dress. Here's my fabric. Is folded into two using the biggest measurement I'm working with, which is the hip measurement in this case, divided by 4 plus extra 3 inches for allowance, and then another 1.5 for zip for the back. So this piece here is the back piece. I'm marking 1.5 inch, which is the zip allowance, all the way to the hem. And then the length of the dress, you're going to add extra 2 inches. In this case, I'm using the entire length of the Ankara fabric, which is about 45 or thereabout. So I'm going to be using the rest for allowance. So here's the front piece, the same thing, hip measurement divided by 4 plus extra 3 inches for allowance. In this case, there is no 1.5 for zip. So I'm placing that front piece. I place that front piece on top of the back, the zip line. Up here now, I am drawing a line. We're going to be cutting off that factory edge, so all our measurements are going to start from below there. Here I am marking the bust point, the waist, the half length, and then the hip line, which is 24. I use 24 inches in this case. And then I am marking the actual length. I added half inch to every vertical measurement. So let's say if the waistline is 16, I mark 16.5, since we're going to be joining the shoulders with half inch later. Here I'm marking half of the shoulder measurement, half of the shoulder measurement, and then I am starting from that front piece. I'm not including the back piece. And then I marked armhole of 8 inches and I curved that out. Here again, starting from that front piece again, I went in by 3 inches and then I came down by half inch on the armhole side. I'm connecting that into a slant to form the shoulder slope. So at this point, I'm marking the bust measurement divided by 4 plus extra 1 inch for ease, and then here the half length round divided by 4 plus extra 1 inch for ease. On the hip line, I'm doing the same thing, hip measurement divided by 4 plus extra 1 inch for ease. Using my ruler now, I'm going to connect all these points together, and then I went ahead to mark another 2 inches, which is going to serve as our seam allowance. It's going to serve as our allowance. So down here now, I'm going to take whatever I have on the hip line and mark that on the length, and then I add extra 2 inches again. Using my ruler one more time, I am going to be connecting my points to the hem of the dress. So next I am marking the neckline. I mark 3 by 3 for the front, 3 inches wide, 3 inches deep. And then for the back I marked 1.5 inches deep. And then for the wideness is the same as the front, 3 inches. Curving that out. Next, on this back piece, I'm going to mark 9 inches from the shoulder, and then I'm going to mark the half length, and then about 1 inch before the hip line. On that half length, I'm going in by half inch. I'm going to connect in a slant to meet the 9 inches at the top, and then the 1 inch before the hip line on the down part. Since we're going to be adding a zip to the dress, this is going to help reduce the bulge at the back. Next, I am cutting, starting with the back neckline. I'm cutting the armhole and then the sides. Next, we're going to cut out this slant at the back, like so, and then we'll open up the rest of the back piece. Now for the hem of the dress, I'm going to mark the length, the full length of the dress plus ½ inch on this back piece. This is the back piece and the zip allowance side. I'm making a notch there. Please don't notch your center front. And then on the side seam as well, I'm making a notch at the length of the dress, and you will see why later. Here I'm cutting out the front neckline only on the front piece, like so. So I'm going to go cut lining pieces for all of this, both front and back. So here is my lining. It is shorter than the dress and it's going to fold over like this to complete that. So my actual allowance was 3 inches, but the lining is shorter by 5.5 inches. Then for the back piece, the same thing. The lining is shorter. The allowance is going to fold over to complete that, but the rest of it is cut exactly the same. So next up, this is the front piece. I'm going to place my lining on the right side. We're going to go sew the neckline using ½ inch, and then at this midpoint I come down by 4 inches and then make a V like so. So we're going to sew, come down, go back up, and then to the rest of the neckline. And then we're also going to sew on this hem part, still on the right side. Place the lining like so and sew it using ½ inch. For the back piece now, I'm going to repeat the same thing. I'll place the lining on the right side of the back piece, sew the neckline, then I'll come down and sew the hem. Then starting from the neckline, I will close the zip allowance, and you will see in a minute. I'll do the same thing for the second back piece. So after sewing, this is the front piece now. We're going to cut open this sharp V, and then we're going to notch the rest of the neckline like so. Just tiny cuts. Make sure they don't pass the seam line. Next, we're going to turn this to the right side, and then we will iron it smooth. So if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, I guess now is the time to do so. Thank you. So this is what it's looking like so far. For the back piece, after turning to the right side, this is what we have. I'm going to go iron all of this, and this is it after ironing. Next, we're going to go sew the zip. I'm going to mark a new zip line now. So after turning it, we're going to be marking 1 inch. We have used ½ inch to turn it with the lining, so I'm marking 1 inch all the way to the hem of the dress. I'm going to go sew that. So from the neckline all the way to about 22 inches down, we're going to make a loose stitch and then sew tightly from that point to the end, because we're going to be losing that later to add the zip. This is the front piece after ironing. This is what we have, very smooth. And this is the back piece after sewing the lining and ironing. Next, I'm going to be marking the measurements I'm working with, so we join both front and back pieces together. I marked the waistline and then the hip line. I used for 24 inches for the hip line, and I'm marking the bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for ease, and then waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch ease, and then hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch of ease, and the same hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch of ease on this lower part. So I'm going to use my ruler now to connect all the points, and then I will turn it to the other side and repeat the same thing. From the shoulder, I will mark the waistline and then the hip line, and then up here I will mark the bust. Please note that the measurements are starting from the zip line All the measurement starts from that zip line divided by 4 plus 1 inch of ease.